Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. I'm Annette Richmond. This is the Smarter Career and Business Moves LinkedIn live show and podcast. And I'm so excited to have you here with me today, Teddy. We were chatting a little bit before we went live. And, I always ask my guests to suggest people who would be interesting to be on my show, who'd be kind of a good fit for my casual style. And our mutual friend Jeff Young said, "Oh, you've got to get Teddy." And so, I'm so happy that you said yes. And I love this topic. Now, I know that you are, a LinkedIn trainer, but for people who don't know you, and tell us about who you are and what you do.
Annette, I am the 65-year-old social media strategist. By the way, I'm also I don't know what you call it, Medicare, card carrying Medicare member. When you hit that big age, you get handed that card. And so I'm a father of 4 daughters, a grandfather of 12 kids. I'm number 2 of 15 in my family, Annette. That's a story for another day. I've been married to the same woman for 45 years. I contend to her mother. I tell her mother I'm still in practice and experimentation mode. I'm not committed. And that goes over on. But my business is I have 2 parts to my business. One is I teach LinkedIn as a business tool in all types of ways. You name the development training way, I do it, including standing on the street corner with a sandwich board and proselytizing about the power of LinkedIn. And the other division of the business is I teach Google Workspace as a business tool. Exactly the same types of ideas, because they're just 2 different sets of communication tools. That's who I am.
Wow. 45 years. I congratulate you. My husband and I, a couple of weeks ago, just celebrated 25 years of wedded, sometimes bliss. And, and so, it certainly is an accomplishment. And I have to tell you what, this is discussion for another time, but I actually worked with someone quite a few years ago at a magazine who was the eldest of, I think it was 16 kids. And that certainly was, she talked about like being 2 families. But anyway, let's get to our topic for today. I know for myself as a business owner, and then from a husband who does a lot of carpentry, that having the right tool is so important, particularly if you're wanting to do the thing the right way the first time and save time. And I know that I am going to pick up a few tips today myself, which is part of the reason I'm excited.
Yeah.
But before I get into sort of some of your picks and some of the apps that we talked a little bit about before going on air, one of the things I'd like, if you can give us some advice, if someone is like me, victim of bright, shiny object syndrome, it's like there's always something new. So how do we kind of, I don't know, hold ourselves back and just know what we should choose instead of going, oh, that sounds good, let me grab it?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Dang it, I wish I'd known that question many, many years ago. Because I'm also light, that was that past tense, to chase shiny objects. 2 things that came to mind when you asked that. Number 1, go look at your expenses and look at how many shiny objects you're paying for, subscribe to, and why. Question number 2, before you click accept, submit, pay, download, whatever the button is, ask yourself this question: what challenge or significant benefit will this thing provide for me? And if it's not solving a big challenge, if it's not saving you lots of times, helping you from making stupid mistakes, I'm speaking to myself now about what it does, what these do. If it's not providing great value, don't do it. Stop. You may decide to come look at it later, and that's okay. But it's what's the value? What solution will it provide? Or how can it improve my life, including my business, in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I love that, and I appreciate that, because I know I often jump at something, and I find it is something that might help a little bit, but where I think it will, and then I just don't get around to using it. I do
Yeah.
try to evaluate, or I should say I do evaluate all of my subscriptions, apps, groups I belong to, etc., kind of every 6 months, to see, am I getting value using this? And if not, I will discontinue it. So that's something that I do try to do. Now, we were talking a little bit earlier. Now, budget is certainly an issue for business owners like me, and certainly even if you're in corporate, because businesses are tightening up their what they're paying for employees. I remember years ago having a business credit card, but I don't know, I'm guessing they're not as plentiful today. So what are some things that you think about? I will just mention briefly, I don't know if you want to start with this, but I saw that you wrote, I visited your website, I saw you wrote an article on Text Expander, a couple of them, I think. And I use that myself. I love it. It does save me a lot of time. But, what would you say are maybe the top 3 to 5 apps that you think, kind of deliver a lot of value for the money? Because Text Expander is pretty cheap.
Yeah. I'm going to write them down so I know what they are. So
okay,
at least what I'm thinking they are. So wow.
I'm sure with your experience, you have a better idea than I do. I'm kind of like, I don't know.
But Annette, our ideas are based on our experiences. So my ideas may be slightly different than yours. So they may be relevant, but slightly different. And so I got 4 of them on the top of my mind. I'll just work the list.
Okay, cool.
And not prioritizing, because the priority of any tool is relevant to what that tool does. I mean, hammer may be the highest priority tool in your toolbox if you're nailing nails all day. But a T-square, which is lost in my garage right now, is a priority tool when I'm trying to cut a straight line. And let me tell you, I'm stressing out that it's lost. I got 2 grandkids that poke around in my garage, and I think it's in one of their toolboxes. But that's a whole nother conversation. My point is, the priority is dependent upon the task. So let me start at the top. Here's the number one. Actually, this is a really important tool for me, which is why I decided to start teaching Google Workspace. Google Workspace, which is business Gmail, as a tool set, is a critical tool for my business. I could not run my business without the tools and the processes that I developed around Google Workspace. Give you an example. I live and die, mostly live, based on my Google Calendar, to the extent that when my wife wants my attention, she will she will send me an invite to the calendar. She will pick the right day and the right time for us to get together. And by the way, this is not just business. My wife is a business partner. She's my CFO, boss, business partner. But she doesn't just put on my calendar time for us to talk about business. If she wants me to go visit her parents or our grandkids or whatever, she'll look at my calendar and pick the best days and times for us to do that. It's that important to me.
No, go ahead. I love that idea.
Yeah. And so that's one. Here's the other one that Google Workspace app, Google Contacts. You ask a lot of people where their contacts are, they go, huh, they're in my phone. Well, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how
Me
are
too.
they in your phone? And then I get, I don't know, they're in my phone. And I'm like, this is an asset. My network of probably close to 6,000 people, human beings, they are an asset to me. And I don't want to just say that asset's in here somewhere. I want to know clearly, and I can clearly tell you it's in my Google contacts under my burrisconsulting.com account, because I have multiple Google accounts for various reasons. And I can manage them, and I can get them, I can export them, I can save them, I can protect them. So Google Contacts is another really important tool that I use. And by the way, I share my Google Contacts with my business partner. Okay. So she can get to them when she needs to get to them. So number one, probably a highly ranked priority is Google Workspace. And those two apps are part of the reason why.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm eager to hear what else you have to say, but I will mention that I have just learned so much because a few months ago, my husband, who is also my tech guy, we have separate businesses. We don't work together, but he is my tech person, and he recently moved all my business email to one of those Google Workspaces, and I'm like, okay, so now I know things I can go and do there.
Yeah. A lot of people use Microsoft. And Microsoft's a good platform. Microsoft 365, well, they're good platforms, but I went to the dark side in 2009 and I'm never going back. So here's a second business tool that I use. And that we touched on it is Text Expander. Now it's not a huge tool. It's not it saves me, according to Text Expander, it saves me, 10, 15, 20 hours a week. And that's nice. And for those who don't know what Text Expander is, it's an app. It's not a plugin. It's an app that runs on my desktops. It's on my MacBook Pro, my MacBook Air. It also is on my iPhone. It's also on my iPad. And on the iPhones, it shows up as a keyboard. But they're apps, or it is an app. And you create little short codes. Like, I don't type the word LinkedIn, LINKEDIN, with a capital letter. I don't type that. I type semicolon LK. 3 characters, much easier. Now, that's a very simple example, and that's not the primary value of Text Expander. I have a bunch of codes, and I know, Annette, you can't remember them all, so you go look for them. And the app has the ability for you to find them. But I type these phrases so many times that it is actually second nature to me to type semicolon WHY, semicolon WHI, WHY. And that's my message I send to people who send me an invite. They don't tell me who the heck they are or why they want to connect. So my message I send back to them is semicolon WHY. I type in Annette, hit enter, and then hit send. Okay, that's a whole lot less characters, but here's what I say. Hey, Annette, thank you very much for the LinkedIn invite. I really appreciate it. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach. I love to help people use LinkedIn as a business tool. You did not tell me what you wanted to talk about, so please let me know how I can help you. I look forward to your response. That's exactly, by the way, I use slightly better words, but it's pretty much what it says. And I type that semicolon WHY probably 20 or 30 times a week.
Yeah.
And if I had to type that text in every time, my beautiful fingers would have blisters.
Well, no, I hear you, and I have one of those set up myself, and I have one that I sent to you before the show that tells you, please meet me at this time. Here's the instructions.
A long hunk of text.
Yeah, it's a big long text, but I just type in a couple of letters and hi Teddy, thanks for saying yes, and then blah 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 blah, and that's it. And all I have to do is put in a link to the show, and it is such a time saver for so many things like that. And one of the things I like about it too is it will prompt you. It'll come up and say, I've noticed that you've typed this several times.
Yeah.
Would you like to create a snippet? So
yeah.
so I love that. I love that too.
And
And
snippets are really cool because they can be flat text, it can be HTML. I don't know, you can put an image in, but you put URLs,
mhm.
and so you can really customize them pretty nicely so they look really fabulous. I mean, I have some of them that says, dear Annette, or blah 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 Annette, and then I'll say your company name in the text and really make them very customized, even though it's exactly the same thing over and over
Oh,
again.
I know. I do that for my LinkedIn signature line too, so I don't have to put in my emojis every time and all that stuff. It is really, it's not only a time saver, it's just like takes those little headaches, annoyances of okay, blah blah blah, and let me
Yeah.
remember what I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, and
Okay.
no grammaticals, no typos, as long as I put it in there right, and it makes it really easy to use. So it's the second one I want to share with you. Again, it may not be a priority one, but it's an important one for me. So, all right, you ready for another one?
I am.
Calendly.
Okay.
Okay. Now there's Acuity and there's HubSpot and there's other, calendar management tools. And I've used Acuity. Acuity is a little bit of a beast. Acuity is like driving around a tractor trailer. It's got so many stuff.
Oh, how so?
It's way more than I need, but Calendly, and I started in Calendly when it first came out. I was one of the early adopters. And I'm like, oh man, it's broke. It's got chips all over it and, scratches, and it's limping, but it got better and it got better and it continues to get better. And I've actually taken an integrated Calendly to my Google account, which is my burrisconsulting.com account, which is my
Mhm.
primary calendar. I've also on Calendar, I've overlaid other calendars from other places. So, and I can actually sync Calendly to multiple calendars. So it looks for conflicts across different calendars. Okay. Because I have a little bit, my calendar is not crazy, but you want to make sure when you're using Calendly that it doesn't put something on your calendar that has a conflict on another calendar.
Mhm.
And I've created a dozen, and I purge it every now and then. So I have a dozen what's called event types. I have a 15-minute, I have a 30-minute, I have a 1 hour, I have a 1 hour, you pay me, I have a 30-minute, you pay me. I have one for a project I'm working on called Panelists, so I can keep track of everybody who's signed up to be a panelist. And then I've also, Annette, I've also integrated two other tools. Zoom, which is a really important tool to me. It's not on my list. I think it's an important tool to a lot of people, but I've integrated Zoom with my Calendly, and Annette, most importantly, I've integrated PayPal. Because
Yeah.
Boppy's got to make money. And so if you want my attention and you and I agree it's fee-based, I don't need to worry about, let's find a good day. And I don't need to worry about, I got to send you a Zoom invite. And I don't need to worry about how are you going to pay me? Because by the way, Annette, everything I do is paid up front.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
Calendly is my next big one because of a lot of that integration.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Here's another one. Quora. Have you ever been on Quora? Quora.com.
Vaguely. Tell me more.
So Quora is a question and answer site,
Mm-hmm.
and people ask questions all day long, and they ask some of the most ridiculous
That I know.
questions. I mean, I got a corn on my toe, and I'm wondering if I should spray it with WD-40. I don't answer those. I laugh at them, but I don't answer them. What I did on Quora.net is I created a profile that says, I'm Teddy. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach. I got all my links in my profile so people can find me. And that'll make sense about why in a moment here. And then I told Quora, look, I want people to ask me questions about LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, networking, Google Workspace, and how to manage women. And then I quickly deleted the how to manage women part because I don't have that nailed. Okay. But those are the topics that I told Quora people can ask me questions directly contact me through Quora about LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, networking, and Google Workspace. Now, there's a few others that are relevant to that as topics as well. But you're sitting here going, why? Why do you want that? Well, here's why. I build my business around what I say. I build my brand around what I give. So every day I've got to look for something to talk about. Every day I've got to look for some content to give. And it can't be what pops into Teddy's head and says, I want to talk about, I want to talk about something that's important to me. Nobody gives a crap what is important to me. What everybody cares about is what's important to them. So if one person on Quora is asking a question about Google Workspace, calendars, contacts, alerts, trends, if one person's asking a question about LinkedIn networking, engagement, profiles, company pay, whatever the topics are, if one person asks me that question, it is likely that others have the same question. So, that's what I do. I listen to the questions. I get the questions. I answer the questions. And then, Annette, I will often create a YouTube video that answers the question and publish a YouTube video, which is also an important tool to me. And not as often, but sometimes I'll actually share that content on my LinkedIn profile or my company pages. And one more piece about Quora that in total transparency, it's monetized. So I'm making millions of dollars a year in my mind. I'm making money from Quora, and so it's a part of my revenue stream. It's nothing big. It'll might buy a 6-pack of beer every now and then, but it is growing. And so, but it's most importantly, it's where one of the key places I get ideas for content.
I love that. And I thank you so much for generously sharing that, because it is a brilliant idea. And, I found when I was in school, if I raise my hand to ask a question, because, you're sitting in class and nobody wants to ask because everybody feels like, well, I should know that. If you raise your hand and say, oh, blah, what about this or that? 10 other people are thinking the same thing. So, I mean, you're so right. And I use Answer the Public for that, where I will, or Ask the Public, when it is. And you can, put in your topic and get, it does like Google, or you can just go to Google and put your topic in and go down and down and down. So, but this is, there's always, a better or a different way. And I love that. I am actually going to steal, or should I say borrow, that idea myself, because it's really so smart. And you are so right. Nobody cares what I think is, what they're looking for. It's what they want. And so
I've struck gold there, Annette. I've written close to 7,400 answers since 2016, I think. That's a whole lot of answers. And they're not books. I mean, they're small paragraphs, but often they turn into YouTube videos. And I've also had 16.3 million views of my answers since 2016.
Oh, wow.
So I believe that I'm providing value, because otherwise there's some dude there who's falling asleep and he's banging his head against the keyboard and saying, I like Teddy's stuff. And I don't believe that's the case.
No, it's so true. And one of the things that's a struggle, and again, I was so generous of you to share that, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to tell you too much, but it's because it's hard to get people to, like, I have a lot of how-to videos on my YouTube channel, and a lot of them are really good. I mean, it's kind of the next best thing to me showing you how, because you can see me showing you how. But, getting the people, and that seems like, Quora is a place where people actually go. So
before I tell you the fifth one.
Okay. And then I have a question for you. So go ahead.
Okay. I want to tell you that I do a lot of YouTube videos based on the questions I get asked in lots of different reasons, lots of different places, primarily through Quora, but it's not the only channel that I get the topics for my videos. And I believe I'm giving content that people want because, again, total transparency. You can see this on my channels to some degree or another. My YouTube channels, 2 of them are monetized.
Mm-hmm.
And the one channel about LinkedIn gets somewhere just under 60,000 views a month. And I pick up about 150 new subscribers a month, and I somewhere under 2,000 hours a month of people watching my stuff. And I'm like, and here's what's really interesting: my subscribers are not my primary viewers of my content, because people do a Google search for how do you manage a wife who won't
Mm-hmm.
make you French bread, and my video, satirical topic here, my video pops up on top. And so people find me because they're asking questions, and bang, they get my YouTube video. So
Yeah.
it's all about giving, Annette. And if you give appropriately with no expectations, there's value to that.
Oh, I so agree. I so agree. And I see that often with some of the, top creators, that people
Yeah.
that I consider to be the top creators on LinkedIn, who really provide a lot of great information all the time. And here's one of them right here,
Yeah.
complimenting us
Yeah.
on our YouTube channels. But
Yeah.
Kevin D. Turner, I learned so much from him and, many other people on
Yeah.
LinkedIn that I consider myself to be blessed that I have found them.
Yeah, he is absolutely one of my friends that I refer to as a giver, and that shows in everything he does. And again, Kevin would say to you that there are rewards to that as long as you're giving with no expectations.
Yeah.
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 All right, I have one more
Yep.
tool, unless you want to ask me a question first.
No, if you we can go a little bit longer. I like to be mindful of everyone's time. So if you want to share something and then we can cut off there, or I have one question for you. But
Okay. All right. Here's the fifth one. And again, these are not the only tools, but these are 5 that came to mind that are important to me. And this next tool is Evernote. So a lot of people use OneNote. A lot of people use sticky pads. A lot of people use, they use tablets. And the only reason I use a tablet is to scribble down a point that right this minute I need to not forget that. But I've been using Evernote since 2007, 8, or 9 when it first came out. Again, it was broken, it was hobbled, and it got better. And I've written 2 books that are on Amazon, and I wrote those in Evernote. I've also written. I hear the puppy, Mama. That's okay. It's all good. I've also written 5 now licensed ebooks that I've licensed to other companies, and I wrote those in Evernote. And Annette, every coaching session I do, whether it's LinkedIn coaching, career coaching, I'm a SCORE coach. I do SCORE mentoring. I'm now doing work for community colleges. Every single coaching session is in my Evernote. And so I can go back and find out what you and I last talked about. And sometimes I'll put a little note in there about, Annette's imagery she has behind her. And one day I need to ask her, did she create that imagery herself, or did she, commission someone to create it for her? Everything I do where I would normally write it, I put it in Evernote.
well, I have to thank you for that, because I will say I am someone that I do have a few sticky notes on my computer, and I have a big yellow pad that I write on every morning. Is kind of like the few things that I feel like I must do that day. And my husband makes fun of me, but I still, there is something about having that yellow pad, and I make notes on mine as well. But the question that I have for you is about AI. And the reason for that is, I mean, ChatGPT, was kind of like a hot new thing. It's been out now. I signed up for it last year, sort of in the late last year, before it was even ChatGPT. It was like something else, and then it became
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so I was able, when it first came out, I didn't have to get on the wait list. And everybody's like, ah.
Yeah.
So, and I use that. I use it a lot. I don't use it like to write stuff for me, but I use it to outline programs or, things like that. And I'm curious what you think about that and just sort of these AI tools in general.
So I have a lot of friends, my peers, and actually folks in other industries, a lot of marketing professionals, a lot of business strategists, as well as my content creating group, including my LinkedIn content creators. I have a lot of them that love the AI tools. And
Mm-hmm.
I've actually played around. Go look at my LinkedIn profile, and you'll see my beautiful blue picture where my beautiful real blue eyes really show through. That's an AI enhanced image. Okay. But I really am that gorgeous, as you can see.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. So, but I made a decision because of where I am in my business, Annette, only because of where I am in my journey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm way ahead of most people for the most part in the journey for my career or my business. And I said, I don't have the time or want to invest the time to go become proficient, if not a subject matter expert in every space. I do not do LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
ads. I go to AJ Wilcox. If I need help or if a client needs help, I call AJ Wilcox. Google ads. Facebook ad. I don't do those. If I need help, I call Mark Kelly, or I call Jeff, or I call Kirsten, and I say I need your help. I don't want to take on new tools and pretend to use them, or pretend to myself that I can become a subject matter expert in them. Now, that being said, I played with ChatGPT, and I have Bard. Bard is one of my 11 tabs. It's open. I played with Bard. I'll give you an example of how I've recently used them and I find value to use them. A client calls me up. They want me to do a keynote speech. They want me to do a presentation on a slight variation to my core business, which, by the way, I love. Take what I do and use it in a different mindset or a different perspective or a different group of people. And recently I had to do a social recruiting conversation. And recently I had to do a new, are you prepared for your career transition? Upcoming career transition. And there's a couple of those I've done that I've got to deliver. I went to Bard or ChatGPT. I said, blah, blah, blah scenario, what we call them prompts,
Mm-hmm.
write this
Yep.
prompt, and so, I wrote a prompt about speaking to a group of, this type of industry about what are 10 good tactics to be prepared for this unknown change.
Mm-hmm.
I got back this beautiful list that I aligned with,
Yeah.
not some new thing that you start buying new pair of pants, the stuff that I aligned with. So then I asked, Chat, by the way, I did it with Chat GPT and Bard just to see what the differences were. And I went and I said, okay, I want to create a presentation talking to engineers in a government entity about 10 tactics they should be using today for social recruiting. I got back this fabulous list, and there was one item on there that was a little bit different, a little bit new, not something I'd really hung on. And I'm like, but I like it.
Yep.
And so I use it to help me think beyond the way I think. We don't know what we don't know until we go ask people what we don't freaking know. So
yeah, we are of like minds when it comes to that, because that's what I use it for too. And it's a great thing it's sort of like brainstorming, because it will think of something, it'll come back with something that I might not think of, or I might think of it, but I might think about it like next week. And it does give you that, but it is all about the prompts. And
yeah. And by the way, remember, I'm not the expert in this space. I very clearly made it a statement publicly that I do not want to be that expert, but I am not a fan of publishing prompts for everybody to use. Because that just creates a bunch of freaking robots who are thinking with the same damn prompts, and we all get stuck with the same types of results. And
Yeah.
I just think that, using these types of tools, it's just like you and I have a conversation. I could have had, someone else say, well, when I talked to Annette, I talked about this, this, and this. Well, I show up and I talk about this, this, and this. Let's be a little bit more unique. Let's be a little bit more individualistic. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
And not copy and paste everybody's prompts. That's my rant. I apologize to those who
No,
disagree.
I am a firm believer too, but I use the same sort of general idea. Tell me what I need to know if I'm doing blah blah
Yeah,
blah, and it'll give you that information.
yeah.
So I thank you so much, because we have gone over, and I really
Oh,
try
I
not to do that.
apologize.
No, it's me, because I could sit here and talk to you for another hour, easy. But we've talked about a lot of stuff. You've given us so much information. I appreciate it so much. But before we say goodbye, I always like to ask people, is there something that you would like to add? Something that I didn't ask you, we didn't discuss, but you think it would be good to share?
I'm going to come back to what I said to you earlier and align that statement with a different perspective. I said to you, before you buy a tool, you need to determine the purpose and goal, the value. I'm going to offer to you that to the audience, that before you take on learning and becoming an expert at a new tool, ask yourself this question: how many different things can I become an expert of? And if I want to become an expert of something and really be known as a subject matter expert in that space, is there something else that I shouldn't invest that same amount of time in? Because we can't, yes, we can be a jack of all trades and a master of none, and that's a legitimate statement heard properly. But I decided that I'm not a cook. I love to cook, but I'm not a cook. And I'll do other things, including the laundry and sweep the floor.
Well, I appreciate that, and I try to remember that. Sometimes I feel like I'm spreading myself a little bit thin, but
Dangerous.
one of the ways that I do that, as far as being on various platforms, is to just repurpose everything.
Yeah.
Everything I do, I try to repurpose it in some way. So I thank you so much for saying yes. This has been such a treat. When laughter is involved, it's like a bonus. And also a shout out, thank you, Jeff Young, for sending you my way. So thank you so much. And everyone else, have a great rest of your day. I won't be doing this next week because I'm actually speaking at a conference. Yay! So, but I'll see you back in 2 weeks. So have a great rest of your day.
Take care, folks. Thank you, Annette.